She had not taken a step on her own in 3 years. Not one. Her legs lay still beneath the thin hospital blanket, unmoving, as if they no longer belonged to her body. Doctors in white coats with billion-dollar machines had shaken their heads, spoken softly, and written the same word again and again in their files, irreversible. And yet, on a rainy afternoon in a quiet apartment that smelled of detergent and old books, a tired single father was about to do what none of them could. By the time it happened, a mother would collapse to the floor in tears, and a life that everyone had quietly given up on would take its first step back into the world. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that ordinary people can create extraordinary miracles, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this exist because people like you still believe they matter. The girl's name was Lily, and she was 11 years old, though she looked smaller, lighter, almost as if gravity itself had loosened its hold on her. Her accident had come suddenly, violently, on a bright morning that no one expected to end in sirens. A speeding car, a twisted bicycle, a moment that shattered a spine and rewrote an entire family's future. From that day on, Lily's world shrank to hospital rooms, wheelchairs, and ceilings she stared at for hours while listening to the hum of machines. Her mother, Elena, aged a decade and months, her hair thinning, her eyes permanently swollen from crying in bathrooms and stairwells where Lily could not see her break. Her father had already been gone before the accident, leaving behind an emptiness that now felt cruelly timed. The doctors tried everything money could buy. Specialists flew in. New treatments were announced with cautious optimism and quietly abandoned weeks later. Each time, Elena allowed herself to hope just enough to feel the pain twice as hard when nothing changed. The final verdict came on a cold winter evening, delivered gently, professionally, with practiced sympathy. Lily would likely never walk again. Therapy could help her adapt but not recover. Elena nodded, thanked them, and held herself together until she reached the parking lot, where her legs gave out and she screamed into her hands like an animal wounded beyond understanding. That was when Daniel entered their lives, not through a miracle or a dramatic rescue, but through necessity. He was the new janitor at Lily's school, a quiet man in his late 30s with tired eyes and a posture shaped by years of bending and lifting. He was a single father, too, raising a 7-year-old son after losing his wife to illness. He took the job because it came with health insurance and predictable hours. When Lily returned to school part-time in her wheelchair, Daniel noticed how the other kids looked away, how teachers spoke too loudly or too carefully, how Elena hovered like she was afraid Lily might vanish if she blinked. Daniel did not have medical degrees or expensive equipment. What he had was time, patience, and a kind of attention that did not flinch. He noticed how Lily's toes sometimes twitched when she laughed too hard. He noticed how her shoulders tensed when adults talked about her instead of to her. He noticed how Elena was slowly breaking, held together by routine and obligation. When he began helping Lily navigate ramps and doorways, he did it without pity, without performance, as if this was simply what needed to be done. Over weeks, then months, a quiet bond formed. Daniel began visiting after work to fix small things in their apartment that Elena could not afford to repair. A loose cabinet hinge, a flickering light. He brought his son along, and for the first time since the accident, Lily laughed without checking herself. Daniel never spoke about miracles. He never promised anything, but he listened, and he watched. Late at night, after his son slept, Daniel read everything he could find. Not glossy miracle stories, but dense articles, old rehabilitation journals, first-hand accounts buried deep in forums. He learned about neuroplasticity, about how the brain sometimes rerouted itself when given the right signals, about how movement could begin not in muscles but in belief and repetition. He also learned how rare it was, how unpredictable, how exhausting the process could be. Most people gave up because the work did not look like progress. It looked like nothing. He started small. With Elena's reluctant permission, he helped Lily with simple exercises at home. Not aggressive therapy, not anything that would hurt her, just routines focused on awareness, feeling her legs, imagining movement, engaging muscles that barely responded. Lily was frustrated at first, then bored, then quietly curious, Daniel never pushed. He celebrated nothing visibly even when something changed, especially when something changed. Elena watched all of this with a mixture of gratitude and fear. She had learned that hope could be dangerous. Each night she lay awake, listening to Lily breathe, wondering if she was allowing herself to be led into another disappointment. But she also noticed things she could not explain. Lily's posture improved, her color returned. She complained less of pain. And sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, Lily stared at her legs with a strange intensity, as if they were strangers she was slowly remembering. The day everything changed did not feel special at first. It was raining, the kind of steady rain that blurred the world into gray streaks. Daniel had come over after work, soaked through, apologizing for being late. Elena was in the kitchen, exhausted, her hands shaking as she washed dishes she had already washed once. Lily sat on the couch, her feet resting flat on the floor as Daniel had encouraged her to do weeks ago, even though it seemed pointless. They began their routine. Slow breathing, visualization, gentle pressure. Elena half watched from the doorway, her mind elsewhere, when something in the room shifted. Not a sound, not a movement, but a feeling, like the air tightening. Lily's face changed, her brow furrowed, her lips pressed together. Her leg, the right one, trembled. Daniel did not react. He stayed still, his presence steady, grounded. The tremble became a lift. Barely an inch, barely believable. Elena dropped the plate in her hands. It shattered, the sound sharp and final, but no one looked at it. Lily's foot hovered, shaking violently, as if it were fighting its way back from somewhere far away. Then, impossibly, it pressed down. Weight transferred, a shift in balance. A moment that lasted less than a second and yet contained years. Elena's body reacted before her mind did. She stumbled forward, her knees hitting the floor, her hands covering her mouth as a sound tore out of her that she did not recognize as her own. She collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably, her entire body shaking as if it could not contain what she was witnessing. Lily stood there, supported but upright, her face frozen between terror and wonder. Daniel finally moved then, steadying her, his own eyes wet but focused, as if afraid the moment would break if he acknowledged it too loudly. It was not a miracle in the way people like to imagine. Lily did not suddenly walk across the room. She did not run into her mother's arms. What happened was smaller, quieter, and far more powerful. Something that had been declared impossible had just occurred, and once that boundary broke, everything changed. The weeks that followed were the hardest of all. Progress was slow, uneven, exhausting. For every step forward, there were setbacks that felt cruel and personal. Lily cried in frustration. Elena battled guilt for every moment she had accepted the word never. Daniel showed up every day, rain or shine, tired or sick, refusing praise, refusing attention. He taught Lily how to fall safely. He taught her how to get back up. He taught Elena how to watch without panicking, how to hope without drowning. Word eventually spread. Doctors came back into the picture, their tone different now, cautious but curious. Tests were redone. Explanations were offered that sounded scientific but felt inadequate. Daniel stood quietly in the background, uncomfortable with the attention, uncomfortable with being called anything close to a hero. He insisted he had only paid attention. He had only believed that bodies were not finished just because systems said they were. Months later, Lily walked into her school on her own legs, slowly, unevenly, but upright. The hallway went silent. Elena watched from the doorway, her hands trembling, tears streaming freely down her face, not bothering to wipe them away. She did not collapse this time. She stood, finally able to hold the weight of her joy. Near the end of this story, if Lily's journey, Elena's tears, and Daniel's quiet faith have touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive. And before this story ends, I ask you one special thing. Go to the comments and write a few words about what this story made you feel. Hope, pain, faith, doubt, anything at all. Let others know they are not alone. Because miracles do not always come from billion-dollar machines or famous names. Sometimes they come from tired single parents who refuse to stop caring, from patience that outlasts despair, and from love that quietly insists on trying one more time. And when they do not arrive with thunder. They arrive with a trembling foot, a mother on her knees in tears, and a life stepping back into the light.